Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Heel Toe Corner Club podcast. I'm Marcus DiSabella, your host. I am the owner of Heel Toe. We sell Honda and Acura parts on the internet, although we are looking at expanding that business into making it much more of an all-inclusive automotive parts experience. But really, this podcast is just to sort of support my own need to get out some automotive talkings and such. I love cars. I like the car industry. I like selling parts for cars. I kind of like everything about cars, more than actually just the cars themselves. I mean, the cars end up being just sort of the vehicle, so to speak, of the passion around automotive, all things automotive. And today, one of the things I want to talk about is sort of like a dual-headed topic. And we're going to talk about the Acura TLX, the second generation TLX. The news is that they're no longer making the TLX. They stopped production of this vehicle. And Honda, or Acura more accurately, has said that this is because of declining sales, and as the market further and further is looking for SUVs rather than sedans. But then there's also sort of the dovetailing in of the parts of why don't they make such and such a part for my car? Where is the aftermarket support for my car? And the TLX has sort of suffered from that ever since it was new. There are a few companies that make a few parts for the TLX, so you can tune it up. And when I say TLX, I'm really talking about the Type S. As an automotive enthusiast, I mean, I know they make the Advance and the A-Spec and all this other stuff. They're subject to the same sort of statements that I'm making, but just sort of know that I'm talking about the Type S for the most part when I'm talking about the TLX second generation car. So anyway, yeah, a lot of times people get all twisted up about how their car doesn't have a lot of aftermarket support. And then here we go. That car ends up getting pulled from production by the company that's even making the car. And, so then I start asking some questions. Number one, Acura, is it really true that sales are declining? Is that because of the fact that people really want SUVs more than sedans? Or are you just not really producing and then supplying as many of these cars? Because it seems like if you want to buy a TLX or a TLX Type S, there aren't always that many options that an enthusiast is going to go for. And let's be honest, if I just want a plain sedan, if I just wanted a nice sedan, the Acura TLX may or may not be the one that I'm going to go look at first. If I'm looking at a regular car, I'm probably looking more like a Toyota or Honda Accord. I mean, me personally, probably more Honda Accord if I'm just looking for a good car that drives good, that's a Honda, designed well and styled well. And if I don't really care that much, I'm probably going to get something like an Accord. I'm not maybe going to gravitate right towards the Acura dealer. Maybe I will, but the thing is as an everyday car, the second generation TLX isn't that great. They're kind of big, and the back seat isn't very big, and as stylish as it is, it's just not very practical as an everyday car. So somebody buying a TLX and a TLX Type S, there are a lot of other options that are more practical, also less expensive. But on the flip side, if I am looking for a nicer sort of performance looking or performance sort of sedan, if I go to Audi, if I go to maybe BMW, I'm not really sure these days. BMW sort of kind of lost their way, but I hear people say Audi the most, right? If you're going to look at a performance sedan or a luxury performance sedan, Audi has some really compelling vehicles to look at as well. And on paper and dynamically, I mean, it's hard for Acura to compete with that. If you really love Acura product and Honda product like I do, you're not even really going to go look at an Audi because you just want a Honda or an Acura. And if you like the Type S, then you're going to go for it. Even though they did seem a little bit spendy on the jump, man, the styling was great. The performance is there. I know on paper it doesn't seem like it, but plenty of reviewers have driven it and commented that the handling and the performance is really something that belies the numbers on paper. The TLX Type S is a fantastic driver's car. It's a great everyday car. The gas mileage is terrible, but if you can get kind of beyond that, the fact that you're paying a lot of money for the car in the first place probably shouldn't kill you the gas mileage aspect of it. I mean, we have one. My wife drives it all the time, and she absolutely loves it. It looks great, and it turns a lot of heads, and it's sporty and fun. It's got enough tech features for her, for sure. And yeah, but you know what? She drives herself around. We don't go out in that car much, I would say. It's very rare that we would have anybody in the back seat. And we have it detailed once a month, and usually when it's getting detailed, the little vacuum lines in the carpeting and in the suede inserts in the back seat are still there. So, you know, an argument could be made that that car isn't really used that much at all. I mean, she could be driving a one-seater car most of the time, and it would serve the same purpose. So, practicality speaking, if you've got a family or whatever, this is not the car that you're going to be looking at. And as soon as you cross over into, I need something more practical, hatchback, wagon, or SUV or crossover automatically makes more sense. And even she would kind of like to have an MDX Type S to drive around most of the time. Just more space. You don't have to get down into it. You can sort of hop right into the side. And it's got more features. The MDX Type S has, you know, the massaging seats and a heads-up display and all-around camera that our TLX doesn't have. So even just within the own product family, you can't outfit a TLX in a way that the top end enthusiast would really be wanting it to be. So, yeah, okay, demand is a little soft on the car, but why is that? You know, if it had the poor gas mileage, but the extra 30, 40, 50 horsepower that people are kind of looking at, would it be a more attractive option? If it had some more of the features on a Type S that you could even get on, you know, the range topping TLX has the all-around camera and a heads-up display, but the Type S doesn't. Why is that? Honda continually does this where they make a car that's like almost perfect, and then they wonder why people kind of, you know, cringe a little bit when they look at it. Now you got your diehard people like us who are just going to look past some of those things. But if you're trying to attract buyers that are cross-shopping an Audi, you got to come up with a better game than that. I think that Acura, you know, is sort of shooting themselves in the foot when they say, well, people aren't really buying this car, when they're not really giving people what they want. And this has been a kind of a sort of an internal cultural criticism of Acura for kind of a long time. You know, when Acura first came out with the Legend and the Integra, you know, the A symbol is supposed to mean like a caliper, meaning precision. Basically, we've got a Honda here that's been more finely crafted, tighter tolerances, a little more performance, better materials, fit and finish is right up there. And it's like the Honda experience, but elevated, you know, exponentially. And that's always been sort of true. And then, you know, over time, it just sort of gotten watered down and lost as they're sort of wandering in between. Are we trying to compete with Lexus? Are we trying to compete with, you know, European makers? Like, why are they trying to compete with these other cars? They should just be making their own really good cars that don't really have anything to do with these other cars. And I think that they did that with the second generation TLX. Now, I was there. I was at the Acura launch event when the Type S concept was released. There's a video reveal of it on my YouTube channel. And when they pulled the cover off of that blue concept vehicle, it was like, holy cow, this is great. Acura's back. This is a cool looking car. It's got performance, you know, pedigree. You could just tell by looking at it. The rear haunches, the brakes that it had on it. And that was just the concept. And when they came out with the production TLX, it's like, wow, they really carried over so much of the design principle, the shape, so much of that concept had come through on the actual production Type S. And we start looking at the spec sheet, the weight, the power, you know, what it comes with, what it doesn't come with. You're like, okay, all right, it is a little watered down. They could have knocked it out of the park. They hit a solid, you know, double, you know, maybe a triple in some ballparks, but you know, not a home run. And some people, they're just not going to go for it if it's not a home run. I kind of get it. But you know what? I think it was a successful car. It was a successful means of them taking a design language from concept that was something that enthusiasts wanted. We loved it right off of the jump and brought it to production. And then it just didn't really translate to the kind of sales that they were probably hoping to have. And there are multiple things feeding into that. And sure, people want SUVs. Okay, they wanted 400 horsepower. None of these are really going to save that car from the reality, which is that it just wasn't selling enough for them. And so they killed it. And Ford killed all their cars except for the Mustang, and all kinds of other automakers are killing their cars. Honda's not killing their cars. The Accord and the Civic are going to live on for a long time, I'm positive. There is a need for sedans, but there isn't a need for a TLX, a car that's sort of like wandering in between, what kind of car is this? Like, is it supposed to be a street performance machine the way that it looks? Is it supposed to be like a performance car, which it's a street performance car? It does not perform on the track the way that you need it to, or the way that you think that it would. Any kind of an M Sport or M vehicle you can take to a track and lap it most of the day, not have any trouble with the brakes or anything like that. It's got tires that hold up, bushings that hold up. And the TLX Type S, I know from experience, handles great. It could do amazing things on the track, but the platform far exceeds what the brakes are capable of doing. Sorry, I said tires, but the tires are, you can get it with a summer tire option, which is great, but the brakes just don't hold up. And the brakes is the number one thing you need in a street performance machine. So it's like, okay, so we built this performance car that looks the part, has these great looking brakes and stuff, but it just doesn't really work when you get to the extreme end of driving performance. So when Acura designs this car in the first place, who do they think is actually going to buy it? Are they going out? I mean, I was watching Smoking Tire videos. Matt Farah took the TLX out, ended up having brake warnings. And I know that they had upgraded pads in that vehicle. It would not have done well on the track with the factory pads. And he didn't have any problems with the way that the car drove or anything like that at all. But he did get the brake warning. It's like, so hold on. You're going to have a press event with people that are out there, excuse me, performance drivers on a track, and you're even going to upfit the car with brakes that are track ready, and you're still going to end up having the, hey, slow down brake warning issue. Guys, did you not test that before you gave it to the press people? Like, how do you think people are going to drive this car on a track? They're going to get the brakes hot. They're going to want to do multiple laps. They really could have done better. I think that that part of the vehicle really was the biggest letdown, is the one of the most attractive features and the biggest letdown. So, people talk, and people like me go out and track the car, and then they report back on how it drives. People tune them up on the street, and then they report, their wins and losses at the stoplights. Legal or not, that's what people do. Some guys go out and do drag racing videos. They show how fast the car is or isn't. All of these become attractors to the vehicle or not. And the TLX just had more detractors than it did have attractors. And people like me that have it and love it can say all day long how great it is. And it won't really matter because, we could go get a BMW or an Audi and flash it and be blowing the doors off of it. Plus, we're going to have style and, a great vehicle that handles and performs the way that it's sort of advertised to, even if you did take it on the track. And so, when you end up with a limited production car, you end up with limited parts availability. So part of the excuse of, well, the car doesn't really do it out of the factory, but, with the tune, with the this or with that, you can turn the car into something that it isn't. You can right these wrongs or fix these things that are wrong with it. And to a certain degree, that's right. But people have to want to do it. Like the companies that make the parts have to want to make the parts. So, PRL gets a hold of it, and they make their stage 1 intake system, which is an air filter and an intake tube. I don't know what the actual performance benefit is there. Higher flowing air filter, perhaps. The intake tube, I'm sure, does almost nothing. But you know what? It's something to buy, so people buy it. They make the intercooler and the charge piping, which are legit upgrades, I will say. We did those on our car. There's a video for that too. And immediately you can tell throttle response and performance difference by changing the charge pipe and intercooler. All right, let's go. K-tuner. They reflash the computer. They run into some hurdles. They run into some development issues where they can't get past things like the boost ceiling. And that's really kind of like the number one problem with their tune is they keep running into the boost ceiling. You get boost cuts. You definitely get more power because it did increase the boost. But when they run into the boost limit, the car shuts power and then you just can't make any more. They never developed it for personal tuning capability. And at the end of the day, it's just a severe limit, and people run into that limit and then they get disappointed. We got new tuner now, Lambda Tuning, who is doing like hard reflashes. He's not marketing an actual product to sell to people, so he's got to reflash the computer locally. But doing much more, done more development and getting past the boost ceiling, getting past some of these issues, and now doing transmission reflashes. Great, but people don't want to send in their computer. They'd rather have a product. And this is kind of a passion project by an individual. And, it doesn't end up having a lot of long-term viability unless they can come up with a business model that continues to grow, right? People want this car. People want that car. Whatever car comes next, they're going to want that one too. So if you do something good for one car, you then get asked to do it for like bunches of other cars. And I've dealt with plenty of homegrown users over time who have come up with something out of passion, done something like a neat product or a neat concept that they marketed to a community surrounding one car, and then they get burned out. They satisfy their own need. They satisfy the needs of the initial people who are really interested in it. And unless they turn around and actually turn it into a business, which means elevating up above and saying like, okay, now I'm going to put that, like I put all that time and energy. If he put 3 years worth of development into the TLX platform, how many years worth of viability is there in selling product for it? How many nights does he want to stay up late reflashing people's computers? I mean, forever? At a certain point, it'll taper off and it won't be worth his time anymore. And if he gets into other vehicles, then all of a sudden now, he's having to do this with, so many other people. And you want to have a long-term idea, or at least a middle long-term idea, and say, all right, well, if I'm going to do the MDX, is there more or less the same number of people as the TLX? Do I want to get into Civic Type R? Do I want to get into, Integra Type S? These cars have much larger audiences and maybe more potential behind them. But now you're talking about another potentially couple of years of development to get the product where he wants it to be. And, now you got to market it. Now you got to do all the work that goes along with it being an actual product. You got to support it. And so that's a decision that an individual makes at a certain point. If they're going to take their passion and turn it into a business. I've got a couple of people that I do business with who are staunchly like, this is a passion project. It's not a product that I'm marketing as a business. Although they put a business name on it, they put a branding on it, and they're presenting themselves or selling the product at a profit like it's a business, but they're doing it as a passion project. And in almost 100% of these cases, I'm finding that the product underperforms because the person is, kind of shielding themselves behind the fact that they're not really running a business. They've already got a job. They're just doing this because they love the community and they love the product. But they're not trying to take responsibility for the fact that they've created a product that's got demand and that people want it. At a certain point, you've got an obligation to satisfy that demand. Otherwise, you're going to piss people off. So that's okay. Are you okay pissing people off? Or are you okay, ramping up and satisfying the demand that exists for it? The people that I'm talking about may be listening to this podcast, and I want to say, no hate, no shade, no nothing on you at all. I appreciate what you've done, the ingenuity and the effort that goes into developing a product and marketing it, and all of that stuff is huge. And I compliment you and all of that for having done that. But at the end of the day, I believe that it's true that when you enter into the marketplace representing yourself as a a business, as a vendor, I think you do kind of have a responsibility to satisfy market demands that are there that you've created. And if you don't want to do that, then you might find an exit strategy. Somebody else can take over production of the product, or you can find a way to get more mass production, maybe sell it through another vendor who's going to produce it for you under license or something like that. And that way you get at least paid for your idea. And really what you're able to do is take your passion project and satisfy a wider range of people. When a company like ours takes a hold of the product and then tries to sell it, we're going to try to sell it to more people than you, like a greater reach than you might even have. And so is the idea a passion project for yourself, or is it an idea, a passion project to help the community? And how limited of a community are you willing to actually help? So these are kind of like the underbelly of making products for cars. There has to be enough people there. There has to be enough demand. Somebody has to develop it. Somebody has to continue producing it. It has to be marketed. There's got to be parts available for support, for repair later on. And if the market isn't large enough, or if you're not willing to satisfy a large enough market, then the production doesn't make sense. So you get a company like K&N who will make drop-in air filters for the TLX because they make a drop-in air filter for literally everything, but they're not necessarily going to go and make, an intake system. You get, MagnaFlow at some point is probably going to make a replacement converter for it because that's what their business is. They're not going to make a catback for it. It's too large, too complicated, and too expensive, and the market isn't big enough. They'll look at the total production of cars and whatever percentage they think are going to actually do an exhaust upgrade, and then they'll take whatever percentage of that and think, okay, well, we can probably get 10% market share out of the people who are likely to upgrade the exhaust at some point. And if that number isn't big enough to justify developing a product, then they're just not going to do it. And I think the TLX Type S numbers have proven that it's just not big enough of a vehicle for people to go after producing parts for. So that's a lot of information. My thoughts on the TLX being discontinued are, I really thought that they were going to come out with another generation of car. Personally, I thought they were going to come out with a hybrid all-wheel drive, ditch the super handling all-wheel drive system that works amazing, but it's heavy, it saps power, and maybe replace that diff back there with a couple of electric motors, and then we could have a leveled up performance sedan with a V6 turbo up front, a great chassis, and then a hybrid powertrain driving the rear wheels. I think that would have been a great evolution of that vehicle, but apparently, they just don't have faith in the platform of it being a sedan. Instead of doing something daring and different, they are looking at the numbers and they're saying, nope, we're not going to do it anymore. And, I guess I get it. It's disappointing. But at the end of the day, the number one thing I thought when they said that they weren't going to make that car anymore is that I'm glad that I have one because I think it's awesome. We have the first one our dealer got. It's that amazing tiger eye color. We got really red carpet experience with Tonkin Acura when we bought it. And my wife doesn't want to let go of it. And so, yeah, that was the number one thing I thought is I'm proud that I have it. And, on the topic of developing products for it, we make the ATLP catback. I have some design concepts and scans that we can do an intake system. People keep asking me for a downpipe. There's 3 different sets of springs available, at least for now. There's enough to outfit that car in a way that you can really make it look nicer and perform better and keep it what it is, which is like a really impressive looking street performance car that, probably is not going to go to the track. I won't be taking it to the track again. I may tell you why. I had a bad experience. I'll probably end up telling you in a subsequent podcast. But for now, that's what I got for you. All love out to you if you want them to make parts for your weird, obscure car. But, the reality is that somebody's got to be small and dumb enough, or the car's got to be popular enough for them to get involved with it. Thanks a whole lot for listening. I appreciate it. This format is fantastic. I think I've got plenty of ideas to share with you guys. I'm a little high energy right now. If I'm going too fast, or if you want me to slow down, or if you think that the topics need adjustment. I'm still growing and still figuring this out. So the best way to leave a comment for me is on YouTube, where I am posting this in addition to other streaming platforms. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. Don't forget to shop at Heel Toe for all your parts needs. We got a new merch line coming out pretty soon, so watch out for that. And in the meantime, I'm going to get back to work here, and you can get back to it too. Heel Toe is in your corner. It's time to shift up.